Welcome everyone to yet another Touchdowns to Home Runs, and we are continuing our 2021 predictions for each and every SEC football team. So if you are as big of an SEC fan as I am, that could be any team from Alabama all the way down to Auburn. We are going alphabetical order, and today we find ourselves at Auburn, and it should be a good episode today. But if you are a big SEC fan like me, or you just like college football in general, I guarantee you that this is the channel for you. So do me a favor, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button right now. I'd really appreciate it. But let's get in. Auburn Tigers 2021. Coming in with a new head coach. You got Bryan Harsin coming in for the Auburn Tigers after firing Gus Malzahn after last season. But before we get into the 2021 season, we have to take a look back at this 2020 season for the Auburn Tigers. So straight off the bat, first game of the season, you go against Kentucky, number 23 Kentucky at the time, who I thought Kentucky, I knew from the beginning of the season that they were not a top 25 team. I don't know why they were ranked in the top 25 personally, but they were. It is what it is. Nothing we can change now. But Auburn did beat the 23 Kentucky Wildcats 29-13, and then they went to Georgia and lost one of the most overhyped games of the season. That was a game that I was really looking forward to, and Auburn's D-line just got absolutely bullied by Georgia's offensive line. It was terrible. Georgia owned the line the whole game. Like, it wasn't even that, and like Bo Nix and Auburn's receiving core could not get anything going. It's not even that Stetson Bennett had an amazing game that game. The line just carried. The rushing game was insane. I think they had like 300 plus rushing yards. Not a very good performance there. Then you beat Arkansas on the backwards spike, which technically should have been a fumble, but then Auburn goes and kicks the game winner after that. Loses to my South Carolina Gamecocks. You could probably tell I got the two jerseys behind me there. You go to Ole Miss. You beat Ole Miss. You come back home against LSU. That was another really good game I watched. That was the CBS game. Auburn and Bo Nix looked so good that game, especially offensively and defensively. Like, they only held LSU to 11 points against LSU. It was an absolute blowout, and I thought Auburn was back after that. I thought Auburn had found an identity. They started to get a rhythm on offense. But then after that game, what do? You go play Tennessee at home. You beat them 30-17, and then you lose to Alabama. You lose to Texas A&M, which was actually a closer game than what I was expecting. I think Texas A&M, for them to solidify themselves as a playoff team, this is something that really cost them that chance at the playoff, was just winning games by minimal margins against guys like Auburn or Tennessee the last game of the season. They didn't win by a very convincing margin, and I think all in all that cost them a spot in the college football playoff. I'm not even gonna lie. And then after that, you beat Mississippi State 24-10, and then finishing off the season with a Citrus Bowl loss to the Northwestern Wildcats. Northwestern, that defense is really good. You saw it against Ohio State in that Big Ten championship game. I wouldn't feel too bad about losing to Northwestern. Yes, on paper, for the history of college football, losing to Northwestern doesn't look that good, but I'm telling you, this Northwestern team this season, and I hope next season, because I got one of my favorite players, Ryan Helinski, now on the Northwestern Wildcats. They're a good football team, so I wouldn't feel too bad about that. But after the season, Gus Malzahn gets fired. His buyout was insane. Like, I think Muschamp's was like 16 million, something like that. I think Malzahn's was like 22 million. It was somewhere around there. It's definitely 20 million plus. Absolutely insane number there for Malzahn's buyout. You bring in Bryan Harsin from Boise State, and then Auburn just pick and choose which South Carolina coaches they want. They bought them in bulk, basically. I know you got Mike Bobo, Tracy Rocker. There's tons of South Carolina guys that you guys just took from us. It's like you went to Costco. You just went to Costco and you went, and it's like, oh, they got a bulk sale of South Carolina coaches. Oh, you know what? Boom. Take that. Don't get me started on Mike Bobo. You guys can have tons of fun with him on offense. I'm going to keep my opinion to myself about Mike Bobo on this one. The rest of them, I don't really care. I believe in Shane Beamer, and it is what it is. But you guys got a bunch of South Carolina Gamecocks. So first, we got to look at the 2021 schedule for these Auburn Tigers. Let's get into it. So starting off, for the Auburn Tigers, you go at home versus Akron on September the 4th. Then you're at home versus Alabama State on September 11th. Then this is a very interesting game. This is a very fun non-conference game. You see I got the hat on, the Penn State hat on here. I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the video. First of all, you saw I'm wearing I got my navy and orange on. Auburn's actually one of my favorite teams in all of the SEC. I wouldn't necessarily say this year because of the whole South Carolina rivalry going on with the amount of coaches that you've taken from us. the Tank Bigsby thing, and it was a good game last year. But Auburn, early 2010 Auburn's, I'm a huge Cam Newton fan, love Cam Newton. I love the Nick Marshall days, that team that made the national championship but fell short to Florida State. There's a lot I like about Auburn, a lot of history and tradition. I think Auburn's honestly my second favorite SEC team. But you see me got the Penn State hat on here. I'd say I'm a bit of a Penn State fan. Like, I support them. I root for them. I wouldn't say that I'm any massive Penn State fan. Like, South Carolina is my team, and that will never change. But I do like rooting for Penn State. But that game in Penn State is going to be very, very interesting because Penn State sucked last year. Penn State was terrible last year. But this game is in Happy Valley. It is at Beaver Stadium, and you never know what could happen in Beaver Stadium for this game. Like, it could come down to the wire. You could be up against a really, really hard atmosphere if they allow fans in the stadium, but that's going to be a very good game. Next, you're at home versus Georgia State, which is on September 25th. Then you go October 2nd. You're in LSU. October 9th, you're at home versus Georgia. October 16th, you're away at Arkansas. Then 23 is your bye week. October 30th versus Ole Miss. November 6th at Texas A&M. Mississippi State. November 13th at home. South Carolina. In South Carolina, November 20th. You're in South Carolina. And then finishing up the season at home versus Alabama on the 27th. And then the almighty December 4th, the SEC championship game, which may be a long shot for Auburn coming in with a new coach with Brian Harson's first season, but who knows? Could see Auburn back in the SEC championship. Had to throw that in there. I don't know why, but reading that schedule took the breath out of me. Holy, that was a lot of talking for me in a short amount of time. But we got to look at who Auburn lost this season and what they're bringing in and all that before we get into my wins, my losses, and my toss-ups for the Auburn Tigers. Starting off, the two receivers, because these are not your regular receivers. These two guys are very, very key receivers that they lost this season. Seth Williams, outside of all the Gamecock players, Seth Williams might be my favorite player in all of college football. I absolutely love Seth Williams. He was insane. He was just an amazing player for Auburn. A great wide receiver. You're losing him, and then you're losing arguably the fastest player in all of college football in Anthony Schwartz. You're also losing Eli Stove at wide receiver. So those are three guys there that are going to be key guys that you're losing off of this offense. Defense, you're losing Big Cap Ryan in the defensive front, so that's going to be a hit to your defensive line. You're losing Sherwood, your strong safety, and then you're losing Truesdale in defensive tackle. So you got two guys coming off your line. You got one safety, but other than that, looks like you're returning most of your or all of your offensive line. So Auburn's going to look good there. Bo Nix, I'm guessing, is going to be the quarterback this season. You're either going to see Grant Loy maybe get some time in, depending on how Bo Nix does this year, or a guy that I'm about to talk about in a second when I get to the recruiting class, because there is a chance that you might see another guy taking snaps for the Auburn Tigers this season. Defense looks majority of the same. You still got Christian Tutt. You still got Smoke Monday, one of the best names in all of college football right now. Love Smoke Monday. That name is just amazing, and it sounds scary. So defense and offense, I don't think that there's much moving. You're not losing too many guys. So I don't expect that you're going to see little experience from this Auburn team. Now, how do you use the guys? How do you use the guys who are going to be on the field? How do they perform this season? You're going to have the experience there, but is that experience good experience, or is it an experience of losing and going back to how Auburn was playing last year, which obviously you do not want to see? So that's going to be something big and key for this Auburn team this year, is how do you use that experience that you already have on this team and put that into effect? Getting into this recruiting class, the only two teams that have a worse recruiting class than Auburn are the Vanderbilt Commodores and the South Carolina Gamecocks. Our recruiting class is terrible this year, worse than Vanderbilt's. At least Auburn is 12th. We are dead last. Auburn's bringing in 4 stars, and they got a bunch of different 3 stars, but no 5 stars. South Carolina doesn't even have 4 stars. So Auburn fans, be thankful for your 4 stars. It's going to be okay. So looking in at some of the guys that you're bringing in, you have someone filling in for that D tackle spot. You got Lee Hunter, 4-star, 7th overall D tackle in the nation, 77th in all of the recruits for the 2021 class. You got Amari Harvey, safety, 14th best safety in the nation. You got Demetrius Davis. Now, this is the guy that I was talking about earlier, where 8th best dual threat quarterback in the nation, 4-star quarterback. Maybe, depending on how Bo Nix does, could you see him taking some snaps? Could you see Brian Harsin come in and be like, I want a mobile quarterback. I want a guy who can run, and bring in Demetrius Davis. Who knows? Could be interesting there. And then lastly, your last 4-star, you have another D tackle, 22nd best D tackle in the nation. You got Marquise Robinson coming out of Milton, Florida. The rest are all 3-stars. You got some wide receivers in there. You got some tight ends. You got some O-linemen. You got some cornerbacks. The recruiting class, you're bringing in a few guys, especially it's good that you have guys filling in your needs. Like you're bringing in a safety, you're bringing in a defensive lineman, which you're also losing. You're bringing in 2 defensive linemen, 2 defensive tackles, which will be good. And then you got a quarterback, which if Bo Nix does not perform this season, you're going to have someone to get experience. Although it's not really that bringing him in is going to be like, oh, we're going for a championship now. It's more going to be, let's get him in. Let's get his feet wet for the next upcoming season. So it'll be good. So he'll have experience going into his sophomore year, his junior year, and then hopefully his senior year going in. Wins, toss-ups, and losses, not loss-ups. I have no clue what loss-ups are. Let's get into that because this is something that I've done for every single team. It's something that's really, really interesting in my opinion. It's where I go and I put teams in the categories of games I could call wins for the team, games I can't decide right now, games that are kind of 50-50 or maybe 60-40, something like that. And then losses, games that I think Auburn will ultimately drop this season. Let's take a look at these, starting off with the wins. I have Akron in there. I have Alabama State. I have Georgia State. And then I have Mississippi State Bulldogs in there as a win. Mark it up, those 4 wins. For the Auburn Tigers, I got lots of toss-ups. Kind of the same as I did with Arkansas. You have tons of toss-ups in here. Penn State. Penn State is hard to call right now because I have no clue how good they are actually going to be this season. I have no clue. If it's anything like that season, I think that Auburn definitely has the capability to go into Penn State and come out with a win easily. If this game was in Auburn, I maybe would put this in the win category, but the fact that it's in Penn State and you have no clue whether you're going to have a full fan base there, and it might be a whiteout at Death Valley, you never know. I do not want to call that a win right now. So I have Penn State in the toss-ups. LSU, I have no clue. They have the talent to be a good team this year. LSU has the talent to be a good team. They just did not put it together last season. Yes, Auburn goes and kicks the absolute crap out of the LSU Tigers last season, but you go to LSU this time, so I did not want to put this game as an automatic win either. Ole Miss is a team I feel really, really good about this season, especially that offense. You have Lane Kiffin in his second year at Ole Miss. Do not want to call that a win, especially. No chance I'm putting an automatic win on Ole Miss because I feel really, really good about them this season, even though that game is at home. Arkansas, you go to Arkansas. Arkansas could be a decent team this year, and you had a very, very close game with them last year. Sam Pittman's looking to grow this team. They're returning a lot of guys back as well as Auburn. And Arkansas has the 8th best class in all of the SEC coming in this season. So Arkansas, they got some good receivers. They got Burks out there. You got Smith in the rushing game. Arkansas, I actually think is going to be a pretty decent team this season. And of course, I put my South Carolina Gamecocks in a toss-up. You're going to South Carolina. You lost to them last year. That fan base, I tell you, for that Auburn game, I hope I'm there. I applied to South Carolina. Hopefully I get in. And I'll be there guaranteed next year if I go. Because that South Carolina-Auburn game, I'm telling you, even more than the Georgia game, even more than the Florida game, even more than maybe even Clemson. I don't know about Clemson. That might be a bit of a reach, but there is no game that Gamecock fans have circled more on their schedule than that Auburn game coming up on the 27th or the 20th? The 20th of November, second last week of the season. That stadium is going to be absolutely charged. And the fact that you're going up against Bobo, who left your program after saying he's going to stick around. You have so many other guys, Tracy Rocker, the coaches go on and on and on. You have Tank Big. Most Gamecock fans don't think about the whole Tank Bigsby thing. I forgot to mention him and the players that you have coming back for Auburn. Tank Bigsby was one of the best running backs, one of the best freshman players in all of the SEC this season, and he should play a key factor in helping this Auburn team develop. But South Carolina, that game, I do not want to throw up as an automatic win for Auburn, especially that they lost to them last year, especially that you're going to South Carolina, which is going to be a charged atmosphere because all the storylines you have going around that game. No chance I'm calling that an automatic win for the Auburn Tigers. Losses, Georgia, feel really good about Georgia this season. Alabama's going to be Alabama. They're going to kick some people this season. I think the game is back in Auburn this year. So you get the game at Jordan-Hare, but still coming in with a new coach first year, asking him to go beat Bama in the first year. Bama's just too talented this year. And then I also have Texas A&M in here. You go to Texas A&M. Texas A&M also has a very, very good football team this year. I don't want to chalk that up as a win. No chance I want to do that. So I have 4 automatic wins, 5 toss-ups, and 3 automatic losses for the Auburn Tigers. Worst case scenario, I say worst case scenario, you see Auburn finish in regular season. You see Auburn finish 5-7. They miss a bowl game. I see them taking at least one of those toss-up games. I think the Arkansas one is definitely there. I think Penn State could be there. I think South Carolina could be there because South Carolina could be having a rough season. The Ole Miss and the LSU one are, in my opinion, the harder of the two of all those 5 toss-ups. Best case scenario, I could see the Auburn Tigers taking 9 games. You could win all of these toss-up games. I see that happening. If Auburn's feeling themselves this year, if Auburn is on and they're hot this season, you could see Auburn win all those toss-up games, all 5 of those. They win all 4 of the win games, obviously. And then what? I still don't see them taking one of those. Maybe the only one I'd throw in there is maybe Texas A&M. Maybe they steal the Texas A&M game. So best, I'm going to go not best case scenario, best, like reaching to the ceiling, like sticking your hand and punching it through the ceiling. I'm going 10-2 for Auburn, but best case scenario, I go 9-4 for the Auburn Tigers. I think realistically, you're looking at a 7-5 season for Auburn. First year head coach, you're looking to get a bowl game and just build the program on from there. You could see 8-4. I think that 8-4 is also reasonable, but best case scenario, I'd go 9-4. Worst case scenario, you have 5-7. So that is my predictions for the Auburn Tigers in this 2021 season. Again, Brian Harsin's first year. Let's see how he does. Let's see how he does with this new program. You're going up in the hardest division in all of college football. So you got to show up. You got to get some SEC wins this year. That's going to be key. How do you play an SEC play? How do you match up? Even though you're not technically going to win these games against guys like Georgia, Alabama, and Texas A&M, how do you match up against them in the first season? How close do you make that game in the first 3 quarters before I'm guessing the other team pulls away? And how much excitement are you bringing this fan base to be attracted to coming and watching this team every single Saturday and being excited for Auburn football? It should be an amazing season. So thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I appreciate it. Definitely like down below. Hit the sub button. Comment anything about the Auburn Tigers or SEC football. And thank you for watching. And definitely come back next time.